Some horrifying breaking news as two suicide bombers and gunmen attacked crowds flocking Kabul's airport in Afghanistan as the US and NATO allies continue evacuating people before the self-imposed August 31st deadline. Now, I'll get to more details here, and it's going to become clear as well at some point today or tomorrow that the media and warhawks in both parties are going to try and use this event as a reason to stay in Afghanistan. Even though people just died, it's clear you have to get out as soon as possible, that 20 years of this war was pointless, but they're going to try anyways to make an excuse here using this event for continued presence in the country. But more here from the Associated Press. At least 12 U.S. service members were killed in the Afghanistan bombings, including 11 Marines and 1 Navy medic, according to 2 U.S. officials. Officials say a number of U.S. military troops were wounded. They warn, however, that the numbers may grow. A second U.S. official said the complex attack was believed to have been carried out by the Islamic State group. The IS affiliate in Afghanistan is far more radical than the Taliban, who recently took control of the country in a lightning blitz and condemned the attack. Western officials had warned of a major attack, urging people to leave the airport, but that advice went largely unheeded by Afghans desperate to escape the country in the last few days of an American-led evacuation before the U.S. officially ends its 20-year presence on August 31st. The Taliban have fought against Islamic State militants in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have wrestled back control nearly 20 years after they were ousted in a U.S.-led invasion. The Americans went in following the 9/11 attacks, which al-Qaeda orchestrated while being sheltered by the group. Now, so as far as we know, right now there are 12 U.S. service members who were killed, and I'm sure, of course, many more Afghans killed and wounded. We don't have the exact numbers on that yet, but this is going to be used by the warhawks, by the media, to try and stay and keep a presence in the country. Meanwhile, those exact same people, especially Republicans, will continue ignoring advice around COVID, continue ignoring advice around vaccines, yet 13 people dying. They want to spend trillions more in the country, but when it comes to thousands a day dying from COVID-19 in their own country, apparently that doesn't matter at all. So it's important to have that perspective, have that context, because this is still, whether we're talking about COVID or we're talking about Afghanistan, is still human life. And to not take either or to take one seriously and not the other, when one has a much larger impact on society, on people, on families, and the other is 13 dead in one event. I mean, it goes to show just the hypocrisy and the total lack of logic when it comes to the approach in Afghanistan and in general, the U.S. and imperialism, but also the approach to COVID-19 as well. Now, I want to share just a couple. I'm going to share this story below the video. So this from Jacobin. The media was in love with Joe Biden until he tried to end a war. The establishment media loved Joe Biden until he did a good thing and tried to end the war in Afghanistan. Now they're looking for blood. So I want you to read through this, or even just watch, I have a couple of videos on the media talking about Afghanistan and Joe Biden. It is absolutely insane how finally Joe Biden doing something brave, ending a forever war. And they've been praising him up to this point, even though he hasn't done all that much. But here he is doing something fantastic, pulling out of Afghanistan, and it's been nonstop criticism of his administration. It shows you how the media has led the country into war again and again and again. And despite that, polling right now, I saw a recent poll showing that a majority of people still support pulling out of Afghanistan despite the negative media coverage. Even when the question was posed as biased as possible, discussing how, do you still support pulling out of Afghanistan even if al-Qaeda comes into power, or something to that effect in the question, people still, a plurality of people sided with pulling out of Afghanistan. So, the public has caught on to this bullshit, but still the media is going to try and sell people on the idea of invading every country and it being a great idea. Last thing here, I want to end on this. This is Afghan academic Abdallah Bahir. He says he's staying in Kabul despite the risks of Taliban rule. So he was on Democracy Now, and I want to play just a quick clip of him discussing why he's staying in Kabul, and just the incredible bravery that it takes for this guy to do what he is doing for the reasons that he is doing it.
I do enjoy a certain safety net. That means that I have the privilege to be able to do things other people might not be. And that necessarily means that it incurs responsibility. That means that I have a lot more people who look up to me for hope. I had to go on BBC the 2 hours after Kabul fell because my students were freaking out and they needed someone to speak sense to them. And I know it's bleak, but I'm helping my friends who are under physical threat. I have students who are reaching out to me, who I have conversations with, and when I understand that they aren't under any immediate threat, I do encourage them to stay in the country because this country needs more educated people. The ministries are ghost towns, and they're not going to have enough technocrats for a functioning government to be in place. That's why some of us have to stay behind. I guess it's my way of laying claim to my land as well.
Here is one of the heroes in all of this. Here is somebody who wants to help rebuild his country over the last 20 years of turmoil, staying behind to help educate those living there. You know, these are the kinds of interviews, by the way, you'll only find on Democracy Now. They talk to people who are on the ground. They cover these issues in a way that no other news network does, in depth. Talk to those that are being impacted. Talk to the thought leaders in their various spaces. This is one of those interviews. Check it out. I'll link to upload the video. But it's unfortunate what has occurred over the last 20 years, but there was no great time to pull out of the country. It had to be done sooner or later. There was never going to be a clean break out of Afghanistan. And I'm glad that Joe Biden had the courage to do it. And I hope he continues down that path and is not impacted by the media coverage and the warhawks in both parties that, of course, will be outraged over these events and use it as an excuse to try and maintain a presence in Afghanistan.